In the firehouse, every second counts. The best tool for the job? A well-rested firefighter. Dream Seat Firehouse Furniture, built for durability, designed for comfort, because your best tool is your team at their best.
Welcome to the Fueling Fire podcast, the first and best nutrition podcast for first responders. We bring in the wellness experts who know the fire service, but can break down the science so that you don't have to. This podcast will help you eat better when you don't have time, money, or energy. I'm Megan Lautz, a civilian dietitian obsessed with helping firefighters boost energy and lose body fat while on shift work without the stress. Let's get into the podcast. Welcome back to the Fueling Fire podcast, where we talk about nutrition for first responders and some wellness because, you know, how many nutritionists can I find that really understand the fire service, right? But we have one here today who is my bestie, Annette Zapp, who does all the things from fitness to wellness to sleep. She is Fire Rescue Wellness. Welcome, Annette.
Thanks, Megan.
Fire Rescue Wellness. Have neon signs.
We do.
Official
Thanks, Megan,
podcast.
for having me. This is so fun.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. We're going to have to do a really good job of not zooming off into space, but we'll be fine. Everything's fine.
No one panic. It's fine.
It's all on fire, but it's fine. But for the people who've never heard you before, can you give us a little intro to who is Annette Zapp?
I'm going to give you my favorite one because I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
By degree, I am a biochemist, and I forget to say molecular biologist because that's all tied together. By credential, I'm a strength and conditioning coach and a sports nutritionist. By trade, I'm a firefighter, but guess what? I'm retired. And then by choice, I own Fire Rescue Wellness because it kind of breaks my heart that we take healthy young men and women into the fire service. They give their lives, literally give their lives to the fire service, and then they're broken. At best, they're broken when they leave the career. So Fire Rescue Wellness does education and consulting with fire departments to help our first responders.
Well, and you kind of didn't, you were a firefighter. You were a lieutenant for 20 years, correct?
Only 10. I was a line firefighter for 10 and then a lieutenant for 10. Yep, 20-year career. Yes, ma'am. And then for 5 minutes, I was retired, and then I decided I would go back to graduate school. So I'm a PhD student at Oklahoma State University with the JDAWs.
Yes, and the queen of the nerds.
The queen of the nerds.
She can make it interesting for firefighters. So that is the point of today.
That's kind of like my claim to fame. I take the research and the resources, and then I give it to firefighters in a way that I forgot to ask if I can swear, so I won't. But I give it to firefighters in a way that makes them like, why would they give a darn? So
Yes. I don't know what the rules are here. We're going to find out the rules as we keep doing these.
We're building the plane as it's flying.
Yeah, because you know my favorite word is fork. So anyway, that's literally what we're doing here. Okay, so your big thing is firefighter wellness, right? And you do a great job with each pillar, but you have 4 pillars. What are those 4 pillars?
Oof. I call these pillars my upstream interventions, and I put them in this order for a specific reason because I feel like one of them is the most upstream. Like if you can improve this one, everything else gets better. So that's sleep. Number 1 is sleep. Number 2 is nutrition. Number 3 is, I used to call it mental health. We can call it mental interventions. We can call it anything you want to. Counseling, gratitude practice, journaling, having besties you can talk to, but taking care of your mental health side of the house. And then the strength coach actually puts exercise as the last one. Not that exercise isn't important. It is super, super important. But I really believe like that sleep and nutrition, mental health, if those things aren't in order, it's really hard to get your exercise in order. But they all play off of each other. So I call them buckets. And if one of your buckets is leaking, you definitely want to fill up the other buckets as much as you can.
Absolutely. And I feel like the fire service kind of has a general grasp on fitness. Like they know they're supposed to do it. They don't always execute it perfectly, but like all of the conferences, there's always a fitness person. And then nutrition and sleep, it's like, you need to do the sleep and eat the vegetables. And it's just one slide.
I feel like that's such an accurate representation. It's comical. It's so true. And people, that's the thing with nutrition. And I know that we're going to talk a lot about nutrition, but The thing with nutrition is it's not a knowing problem. It's a doing problem. Everyone, I can't think of anyone that doesn't know that probably choosing a vegetable and a protein and maybe having water is a good choice, as opposed to, going through McDonald's and getting 4 double cheeseburgers, an extra large fry, and a gallon of Coke. I mean, everyone knows that. What'd you say?
We all have those days.
Right. But we find ourselves typically getting into those sort of pitfalls when we're not planning ahead and everything. So nutrition is an application problem, not a knowledge problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say like sleep too? Because that's your, like, if your sleep is garbage, guess what else is probably going to be?
Well, and you and I have had a lot of conversations about this. The typical person that I would call myself a healthy eater, I make healthy choices in general, but after a night of sleep deprivation at the firehouse, I would sometimes find myself at the gas station or, God forbid, at the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru. Like, I don't even like donuts. But after a night of poor sleep, I would find myself, ordering, what are those little ones? Midgets? Munchkins.
Yeah.
I would be, ordering some Munchkins, and I got to thinking, I'm like, why is this happening? And so like everything, I dug into the research, and it's your hormones. You can't help it. The literal hormonal landscape in your body changes when you're sleep deprived.
From one night of bad sleep, not even just like shift after shift after shift after shift.
Right. So there's that there's that short term, sleep deprivation, what happens. And then there's the long term, what happens. So the short term is I'm at the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru with Munchkins when I don't even like Munchkins. The long term is our firefighters are developing type 2 diabetes. Even in firefighters that you wouldn't look at typically and go, I bet they have type 2 diabetes. So sleep is a big deal.
Yeah. So what you always say the so what, now what? Okay. So I know sleep's important, but I'm working 24, 48-hour shifts. I've got babies. I've got side gigs. I'm overdoing the energy drinks. Like, what can I do?
Yeah, it's really, really hard. And the first thing we have to do is when we feel like we have ownership, when we feel like we have power, that feels good to us. So the first thing we have to do is acknowledge that we have power. There are places we don't have power. I like how I think the first time I ever heard you speak, you talked about the lady in the ceiling. And I'm like, yes, that lady.
She's rude.
I don't like her. Mm-hmm. But you talked about the lady in the ceiling. We don't have a lot of control on duty in terms of the call volume and how many times we're going to get toned out, but we can control how much caffeine we have on duty. We can control, are we staying up and playing Call of Duty and watching stupid movies we've seen 100 times? Are we smoking cigar? Wait, I did this. This is how you smoke cigars, I think. I don't know. But yet you're smoking cigars by the fire pit until 2 a.m. Well, guess what? You had power there and you didn't take it. So we want to take charge as much as we can on duty. And then we have to realize that we have a lot more control off duty. So we have to really try to optimize that off duty, taking into account the kids and the soccer practice and all of the other things. But I think with everything in life, when we can plan ahead, I think that sets us up for success in such a way that nothing else can. Because if I've planned ahead, I know my bedtime's at 10. So I know I need to get X, Y, and Z done before bedtime, which includes, of course, our social engagements and our fun things as well. It's not just the laundry and the dog and the whatever. If we can plan ahead, we're going to be much more successful.
Absolutely. So the number is typically 7 to 9 hours, is that, yeah, that's technically the number. So is that realistic for firefighters? Like, what's a stepping stone to get them towards that?
Oh my gosh. Well, it is realistic if we keep in consideration it's coming from, a single person that didn't have kids. I didn't have a dog. Like, okay, it's realistic for me. No one's messing up my schedule. But when we look at it in terms of, just moving the needle in the right direction, even if we can get them getting, say, 10 or 15 more minutes of sleep per night, try that. And then, okay, I've I've figured out how to fit all of this into my life. Now can I go for another 10 or 15 minutes? And I think that that's probably the best that we can do with firefighters. So those small and attainable steps that they can execute relentlessly, I think is going to get them going in the right direction. Because if we go from 4 hours of sleep to, I want you to get to 9 hours of sleep, how's that going to work? It's not.
It's not. So little nap snacks is what we're going
snacks. Oh my gosh, I love nap snacks. Or even again, just that 15 minutes earlier, maybe 15 minutes later in the morning. Keeping in mind, because we do want to talk about optimal. Better is good. Optimal is great. But keeping in mind that when we're really optimizing our sleep, we are trying to go to bed at the same time each evening, get up at the same time each morning, if possible. So, I'm throwing out tips willy-nilly, sleep up 15 more minutes before and after, but we also have to think about the future. How are we going to optimize this? How are we going to make this sustainable?
Absolutely. Just little steps to get to sleep a little bit.
The little baby steps. And you said one of my favorite things, which is the nap snack. And, I just want to drive this message home because I hear it. I keep hearing it. Fire departments who say, we don't pay you to sleep. And it's just such a grossly negligent thing to say, really, in terms of, you have a firefighter who you've not allowed to take a nap because you don't pay them to sleep. And now that firefighter is getting behind the wheel of a fire truck or their own personal car and something terrible happens. So I think we need to be a lot more careful when we talk about we don't pay you to sleep. If the work is done, there is no reason someone can't take a nap.
Yeah, well, it's a safety nap at that point, right?
It is a safety nap. Oh, you know the jargon. I love that.
Well, I've listened to 1 or 10 of your presentations. Usually the photographer. Yeah.
Oh, can we just go on that tangent for a second? Megan takes the most unflattering pictures sometimes, and then she makes memes out of them.
Is it me or is it you?
No, it's me. It's me. It's
okay, good.
Face.
I just wanted to clarify. I wasn't yet.
Help what my face does. But, real friends would delete those pictures. I'm just saying.
Unfortunately, I'm not one of those.
She also takes really nice pictures too. So
it's a mix of both. I give you options. It's a range.
It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag. Yeah. So with the naps, we also see reduced, when people don't take naps, I guess, is they make more God, I can't even think this morning.
Cognitive function is declined.
Yeah, your brain doesn't work as good. So you make more mistakes from an EMS standpoint, from a fire ground standpoint. So it puts it higher risk for injury. So I've worked with stations where they call it where they're not allowed to nap because there's no policy. So they call it an operational readiness drill.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And they're like, it's not, because they know they're going to, they're slow during the day. They, they get their trainings done, they get their workouts in, blah, 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 but they've got some downtime, they know they're going to have 3-4 calls after midnight. You're actually, you're probably saving the county money, if not increasing morale. We got to look at the,
right now I'm doing an operational readiness drill and there is a return on investment on it.
Okay. Yeah. See? That's how you're welcome, guys. We made it sound smart.
Well, and not only the mistakes, but, within the sports literature, people are more apt to get injured when they're sleep deprived.
Yep.
And then, we can look at med calculation errors, which you mentioned. We can look at vehicle driving errors because our ability to judge distance, time, and speed is just hosed when we're sleep deprived. And so I always think of it this way, $2.4 million for a ladder truck or more. And you want someone that has poor judgment of distance, time, and speed? No, thank you. That is a no, thank you.
No. Yeah, exactly. So, and then kind of tying that into the nutrition is the caffeine then too.
Well, I know you love to rant about caffeine.
I'm not in charge. I am in charge today. I am not the guest. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But from a sleep perspective, what is something that you can do to improve your sleep?
Yeah. So we have to remember to think about caffeine. When you went to EMT basic school and they're like, oxygen is a drug. And I was like, but is it really? caffeine is a drug, and it is really. And so we have to think about the devil is in the dosage. And especially if you have trouble sleeping. Now, let's put a pin in that captain that can have a pot of coffee and go to sleep and sleep just fine. Let's put a pin in that for a second. But if you're having trouble sleeping, there could be many reasons. Firefighters have a pretty high rate of undiagnosed sleep disorders, actually. So there could be that. But there could also be the fact that you are slamming 800 milligrams of caffeine. I had a friend that was drinking up to a gram of caffeine per day while he was doing gum and tablets. And all
that's
kinds
rookie
of stuff
numbers. I've had up to 2,400.
But if you're having that much caffeine, it's going to impact your sleep because of the half-life of caffeine. Now we're going to talk nerd stuff, but just think about it as you have a dirty dish. So it's really super dirty. And it takes you an hour to get that dish half clean. And then it takes another hour to get the rest of the dirt half off. That's the same as a half-life of a drug or of caffeine. So 4 to 6 hours for half of the caffeine to be cleared from your system. You're not going to sleep well if you're having that much caffeine. But as Megan likes to talk about, you also can't go cold turkey off of that caffeine either because, well, you're going to have some complications, including probably poor mood. And we don't want to be around you.
No, we don't need any more complaining.
No more complaining. So if we can think about caffeine, I don't drink coffee. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't drink coffee. But if we can think about caffeine in a less sort of ritualistic manner, because I know drinking coffee is a ritual. I know drinking energy drinks is a ritual. If we can kind of get off that ritual with them, that might flip the mindset just enough to maybe start dosing ourselves off of it. But again, the devil's in the dosage, and we have to be really careful about the dosage.
So if it doesn't prevent you from falling asleep, what does caffeine do to your sleep?
Oh, yes. See, I put a pin in it, and it's because you're so much younger than me and your brain works better. So there's the salty old captain who says, I can drink a whole pot of coffee and I can lay down and I can go to sleep. Great. That's great. But you know what? Your quality of sleep is not going to be optimal. And it's the same thing too with many of my firefighters tell me that, I just have a bourbon to fall asleep, just one bourbon to fall asleep. And they do fall asleep quickly. But the issue again is that disruption of sleep quality. So maybe even they're getting enough sleep, but the quality is just garbage. So if you find yourself in a vicious circle of bourbon or beer or whatever it is, wine to go to sleep and caffeine and energy drinks to wake up, we need to look at maybe what you're doing. Why are you doing that? And do we need to go maybe stepping into that mental health intervention where we can figure out why you need the liquor or the alcohol to fall asleep? And then, of course, you do need the caffeine to get up because you're not getting enough sleep. So all of these things, these pillars, in my opinion, tie together.
Oh, well, yes, absolutely. I mean, that's why you made pillars.
Right? Yeah. Pillars, buckets, whatever.
Chiefs and wellness pros, are your first responders struggling with nutrition because they just can't figure out how to apply it on shift work? Are they showing up to shift underhydrated and over-caffeinated? Do they struggle with body composition, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood glucose, but don't know how to make the changes on shift that will actually move the needle? Then the Fueling Fire workshop is for you. These 4 to 6 hour workshops are designed for peer fitness trainers, company officers, academy instructors, or just general first responders who are looking to learn more about nutrition that they can apply immediately that day at the workshop. The Fueling Fire workshop provides practical strategies for packing a go bag, hydrating on the fire ground, preventing nutrition-related injuries in recruits, aka making sure they eat enough so that they don't pass out during PT. The Fueling Fire workshop is instructed by yours truly, Megan Lautz, a dietitian that has a proven 3-step framework to overhaul the basics, aka Nutrition 101, but in a way that you've never seen it done before for the fire service. The second part of the framework is igniting optimal performance. How do I hydrate? How do I pack a go bag? How do I optimize my energy levels on the fire ground realistically? The third step in the framework is igniting lifestyle changes. How do I eat healthier with fast food? What can I make for dinner? How do I change the environment at the station? Practical strategies that can help your first responders be better themselves and promote long-term changes in your overall department. Plus, if you book by February 28th, you get the Quick Bites videos for free. This is a $1,300 value that extends or prolongs the life of the Fueling Fire workshop. These are 12 10-minute videos that you can add into your learning management software, aka Target Solutions, with quick tips on how first responders can eat healthier on shift that day. Go to rescuerd.com to book a discovery call today. Yeah. Okay. So we've any other things on the nutrition front there?
Well, and I know that we're going to talk about this later at another time, yes. Creatine, but regarding sleep, well, first of all, in terms of nutrition, again, I'm not a dietitian, I'm a certified sports nutritionist, but I like to tell my people that talk to me about nutrition, I think the same thing that Megan tells them. We should always look at food first. Supplements are like the sprinkles on the top. But there's the one supplement, creatine, which I think that it's worth consideration for almost anyone, and especially for firefighters, because we know about the benefits of creatine, and we'll get into that in a different podcast. I'm so excited. But one of the novel benefits that's emerging is ability to preserve your cognition when you're sleep deprived. And so that is a huge benefit. Hear me loud and clear. I'm not suggesting sleep deprive yourself because creatine's going to fix it. Yeah. But what I'm saying is we acknowledge that we're sleep deprived. We acknowledge that it impacts our cognition, and we could supplement with creatine to help that situation. See us for the next episode.
Yeah, we'll go on a whole tangent on dosage and benefits and like we're just going to go 30, 40 minutes hard into creatine, but that is something to consider.
Worth consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. From the mental health side, from the performance side, and all of that. So which one do you want to kind of go into next? Mental health, physical health?
I want to talk just a little bit about mental health, because I think that so many people either are on the mental health side, and you look at these people, some of them, and you're like, I'm not sure this person has ever exercised in their life. Or there's people that are hard and heavy onto the exercise side. They don't even talk about mental health. I love to talk about them both. So here's the thing. We come into the fire service. Most of us come in with baggage. Most of us come in with, whether it's adverse childhood experiences, previous trauma, either with a little T or a big T. And we just think that everything's going to be fine. But what happens is that each and every shift of the fire service, little pebbles, maybe a piece of sand, maybe a boulder gets put in your backpack. And if you're not doing anything to offload all of those things out of your backpack, it gets real freaking heavy. And so when I get the opportunity to talk to brand new baby firefighters who are just starting the academy or just starting the job, what I say to them is, you cannot afford to not have a relationship with a mental health professional. And the time you need that mental health professional is not the time that you want to be trying to find them. So you're going to appreciate this, Megan. The time you need a date for a wedding is not the time you want to be swiping left and right on the dating profiles, because it's just not going to work very well.
No.
Same thing with the mental health professional. You have to have a relationship with that person prior, so that it's not going to feel weird calling them up and saying, hey, I got some heavy stuff I need to unload. So regarding mental health, have a relationship with a mental health professional, have good social support, besties that, do podcasts with you and things like that. Make sure that you have some sort of practice of gratitude, whether it's journaling, whether it's whatever, because you're going to need it to get out of this career as unscathed as possible. So pay attention to your mental health, bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so the next thing is finding a culturally competent, right, provider. And so I wanted to mention this, I was looking off to the side, is the National Volunteer Fire Council actually has a directory of behavioral health professionals. So I'll link that into the show notes.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because it's hard to find someone, like, you don't want to go to a provider and like unload like not even your biggest trauma, like you're like, this is just a test, and then they end up crying the whole session. You're like, oh no,
oh no, I've scarred another one. And to go on a little bit of a riff with that, because I used to be very, very like, must be culturally competent, and it is so great when they are. Mm-hmm. But my friend Kenny Mitchell brought up a point, and he said, people complain about counselors who aren't culturally competent. So they say, I don't want to go talk to that person. They can't help me. But these are the same people that aren't having conversations with the people at the freaking dinner table who are culturally competent. And so it's, we just have to get over ourselves to some extent. Yes, we want culturally competent people. That is,
but if you can't find one, don't turn it off, kind of.
But
thing.
They can. All of these people are trained. All of these people can help us. So just don't give up. And it's like pants. Sometimes they fit, sometimes they don't.
And sometimes they fit in one season of life, and then when you have a baby, they don't fit anymore.
I'm wearing new. I wish I could show you my new pants that I'm wearing, Megan, but I just cannot.
Yeah, not without ripping them. It's fun.
They're pretty fab.
Yeah, we love that. Okay, well, awesome. So we have the mental health side kind of covered. That is a big factor, and I feel like you can't really take care of the other things if that bucket is like bleeding out of the bottom.
True, it's true. Yeah. If we sleep and if we eat well and if we exercise, we can at least sort of buffer that impact, but anytime one of these buckets is hemorrhaging, we got a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be harder to take care of the other buckets if the one bucket is, basically no bottom.
No bottom. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, Megan, but I'm going to ask you this. I'm pretending I'm in charge. When you picture buckets, what kind of buckets do you picture?
The ones from Lowe's.
Oh, interesting. The blue ones. Okay.
Yeah, I have a problem with Home Depot and Lowe's. Like, I'm not allowed to go in there.
Okay, that's fair. I always picture, because I spent a fair amount of my formative years on a farm, I always picture like those silver metal buckets that the baby calves eat out of. But I asked someone else this question, and they picture the sand buckets from the beach.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, those aren't very heavy duty. I guess your buckets depend.
Your buckets depend.
Is that like a genetic thing then? Are we just rolling with it?
No, I don't know. It's just interesting what kind of buckets people picture.
Yeah. I want mine to be heavy duty. I don't know if I want them to be metal.
Okay, so just let me tell you this. I have an orange Home Depot bucket. I don't have a blue Lowe's bucket. I have a green bucket. I don't know where I got that one. I also have a pink bucket. And as you know, pink is my favorite color. The pink one, I think I got at Tractor Supply or something like that. So
no, we can't go there because you'll get ducks and stuff. They get baby ducks. I don't know why.
I can have ducks. I live in rural Oklahoma.
Do you really want ducks? No, we're not going. We're
back on track.
Back on track. Okay. Annette's not going to get ducks. We might go look when I come out in May.
You also have to look. The viewers can't see it because if I turn my screen, then you'll see the glare from the sun. But your house is ready right across the street. It's ready for your.
I didn't tell you I wasn't. I'm moving into your house. That we'll put Olive and my husband in the other house.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair.
Yeah, or maybe Gunnar can spend the night.
Gunnar has consent issues.
Yeah, well, he's a dog. He's a dog. He's a dog. Okay, so kind of our last thing then is the fitness side, right? Yes.
So I have some big philosophies on fitness. And first, let's acknowledge that I truly believe, this is my philosophy, that in the fire service, we kind of have like a third, and a third. And so that top third of people, and I would consider myself one of those top third of people, I'm going to take care of myself regardless. I'm going to exercise regardless. I'm going to get medical testing, regardless of whether the fire department will pay for it or not. I'm going to go get it. I'll take care of myself. And so that top third of people, let's just call them, they're taking care of themselves. Can we still help them? To some extent, yes, but they're going to do them and they're going to be great regardless. Then we have the very bottom third that they're not hopeless causes, but they're certainly far removed from being physically fit. So they need a lot of help. And then we have the middle third that's like, I kind of exercise. I don't love it, but I know I need to do it. I took a month off, but now I'm back at it. They're just not super consistent. And I think that when we talk about exercise in the fire service, and remember, exercise and training are kind of two different things. Exercise is I'm just moving my meat carcass around so that I'm healthy enough that I can survive this job. But then there's physical training that's really trying to get you in a certain direction. So bigger, faster, stronger, more mobile, whatever your goal might be. So there's two types of things there. But when we're talking about influencing exercise or doing interventions, I'm really talking about that sort of bottom 2/3. The top third's going to take care of themselves. But what we're finding in the fire service is that cardiovascular disease is a huge challenge. It's taking the lives of a lot of our firefighters. I also acknowledge that cancer and suicide is taking more lives than cardiovascular disease, but cardiovascular disease is taking a lot of the lives of our firefighters. And part of that risk can be controlled. Part of it's genetic, but part of it can be controlled through our sleep, our nutrition, and our exercise, and our stress, our mental health. So these buckets all feed back into cardiovascular disease. And so when we're looking at talking about physical fitness for firefighters, we have to define, are they doing anything? Or are we trying to make them better at what they do? And so, so many times an unphysically fit firefighter would sit down at the kitchen table and they'd say, yeah, I found this program and I'm going to walk for 5 minutes a day. And the rest of the table would just go up in arms. That's not going to help. That's stupid. That's a waste of time. And when we really look at a very unfit firefighter, it's going to move the needle. It's going to move the needle in the right direction. And so when we're talking about fitness, we have to think about fitness metrics, how we're measuring the fitness, and which ones matter. And in the fire service, a lot of them matter because the research is telling us that if you are more aerobically fit, if you have more muscular strength, muscular endurance, muscular power, if your BMI is smaller, if your waist is smaller, if your body composition is better, all of these metrics matter in the fire service. And so we have to make sure that we are able to address those metrics in both a health and a performance way, ultimately for these firefighters. And so, much like the sleep, like I'm not sleeping because I am a firefighter on duty, we kind of get the same thing with exercise. Like I'm not exercising on duty because I'm too busy being a firefighter. Okay, but are you exercising off duty? Because if you're not exercising off duty, what are you doing? Right. So that was a big circular tangent. That was a soapbox, almost like your energy drink soapbox.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to stop the train once it's going.
The train was just going. Yeah. I don't even know if I answered. I don't even know if I answered your question, but we have to think about those 2/3 of people that are not habitually exercising. We need to think about those people.
Well, and the thing with that is there's a lot of times that top third is then like, well, those people just need to suck it up, right? They just need to do like 4 lifts a week, hit training. They need to do gear workouts. They need to do all of these things, but without realizing they're asking them to get to a 2nd-story window without a ladder.
I like that analogy. Yes. I also hate that you said gear workouts.
I know. I saw that. I just poked the bear, but you know what? Since we're here, let's just really.
You triggered me. Well, first of all, okay, you bring me back to the gear workouts. But first of all, the thing that we have to think about is this black and white mentality that we have in the fire service doesn't work very well. Like we're all on or we're all off the wagon. It's 100% or it's 0. And if we can get to that place where we're gray and we're doing pretty good all the time instead of 100% or 0, that's going to be amazing. And so, man, Megan lifted off like 4 different types of training. You just need to suck it up and you need to do this. But what we really need to ask is the first question: what kind of training do you like? Yep. What have you done in the past? Mm-hmm. What has worked for you in the past? I mean, we joke about like step aerobics, but you went to step aerobics 3 times a week for 10 years. That's pretty good. Maybe you need to go back to the step aerobics to get yourself doing something. But regarding training and gear, Megan triggered me because she knows this is my research interest. Oopsies. And here's the thing. The gear protects us from fire. The gear is very immobile, and the gear is very difficult to move, to complete job tasks in. So there's this reasoning out there that I should train in my gear. I should do pull-ups and I should do assault bike and also do all of these things in my gear so that I can force doors in my gear. So I would push back and say, yes, your gear is limiting you biomechanically, and you have to be very comfortable in your gear to do job tasks. You do not need to be comfortable in your gear doing bench press. It doesn't make sense. So there's this biomechanical risk of you're trying to do movements that you just cannot get your joints through the range of motion. There's that risk. And then there's the risk of additional exposure. So the PFAS that's in the gear, the products of incomplete combustion. But Annette, I have a set of gear that's just for working out. Okay, but also PFAS and products of incomplete combustion. And so I would challenge you to say, I want you to wear your gear as much as necessary in order to be able to do all your job tasks efficiently, but as little as possible. So go do your power training, your strength training, your cardiovascular training, do it all. Get really good at it outside your gear, and then go force some doors, and then go pull some hoses. And I would drop the mic, but it'll break.
Yeah. We're trying to reduce the risk for cancer because IARC now classifies firefighting as an occupation that causes cancer, a type 1 carcinogen.
Group 1 carcinogen. Yeah. And if we add on the fact that shift work in general is a 2B carcinogen, I think it is 2A, maybe.
It's 2A. Yeah, so it's like that second level where
we got the odds stacking against us.
And then the alcohol is also a 1, but no one wants to talk about that, so we'll leave that one for another day.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there could be a whole podcast on alcohol.
On just alcohol, yeah. We got to pour one out for the homie kind of thing. Yeah.
We do need to find a researcher that does. I don't know anybody particularly, but we'll find you one.
Yeah. We'll find one. Okay. So we've kind of talked just fitness from a general perspective, from the gear wearing perspective. What else do you have on the fitness side? Because you are the strength coach. You have the certs.
Oh my gosh, I am. I program very differently for fire. Back up the truck a little bit. I don't program bodybuilding splits for anybody except bodybuilders, and I don't train them, but I don't program that way for anyone.
Yeah.
But
why?
It's just not a greatly efficient way to train, especially if you don't have 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, et cetera, et cetera. So we already know that firefighters aren't spending a lot of time working out, so we can't make the time they spend longer. We need to be efficient. And so I boiled it down to be as efficient as possible. And so the way I think about exercise is this way. We have hinges and we have squats. So that's lower body, hinges and squats. We have upper body pushes and pulls. We have carry heavy stuff. See, I caught myself, carry heavy stuff. And then we have mobility and stability training. That's all there is. I mean, yes, there's power and plyometrics and all of those things, but when we're talking about sort of like body parts, that's all there is. Hinge and squat, push and pull, carry heavy stuff, mobility, stability. Think about it that way. And so don't think about it in terms of exercises because that gets to be overwhelming. Because when you're thinking about it in terms of biceps, I mean, Megan, give me 3 bicep exercises right now. Let's go.
Why are you doing that to me? I can't
remember. Because it's fun to talk about your mom brain.
Curl, and then you got the concentration curl, and then we've got the preacher curl. Look at that.
Yeah. That's a lot. Very good, Megan.
That bodybuilding history just is burned into the back of my brain.
Yes, it's burned. But that makes everything more complicated. So if we just think about it as upper body pushing and pulling, then we can start grouping things together in a really logical fashion. This is how I group things. I group things as hinging and pulling. So that would be like deadlifty stuff and pull-ups and rows and things like that. Hinging and pulling. Notice I didn't talk about biceps in there anywhere. Hinging and pulling. And then we have squatting and pushing. And then usually I think about an additional day. It's like a total body day. And usually on the total body day, I might program like extra mobility, but I program every single day. So now we're on hinging and pulling day. I'm touching almost all of the traits during that session. So we're going to start with a dynamic warm up and a little bit of mobility emphasis. Then we're going to go into some power type movements. So whether that's dumbbell snatches or a box jump or scissor jumps or something like that. So we're hitting power, but not for a super long time. Then we're going to go into the hinging and pulling. So I usually do a main lift. Pick one, Megan. Deadlift, is that what you picked?
Yeah, I mean, like it's the easy one, you know?
Yeah, Megan picked deadlift. We're going to do hex bar just because.
Yeah.
Then I do something like maybe 5 sets of 5 on the hex bar deadlift. And then I move on to an upper body and a lower body pulling, and I group those two things together. So that could be maybe a pull-up, an assisted pull-up, a lat pull-down, whatever, upper body pulling, and then a hinge. So RDL, single leg RDL, something like that. I group those two things together, and then I sprinkle in a mobility exercise. So here I go, pull up, single leg RDL, a hip mobility exercise. Rest really quickly. Not 5 minutes, rest really quickly, repeat. 2-3 rounds. Do I have more time? Great. Let's pick another pulling exercise. Let's pick another hinging exercise. Let's pick another mobility exercise and hit that for 3 rounds. Now, how much time have we spent? 35, 40 minutes? Okay. It's time to maybe do some sort of metabolic conditioning at the end, or maybe some carries, something like that. But I hit like big chunks of the body. I hit power. I hit mobility. And if I don't get to work out for 4 more days, guess what's up next? Squatting and pushing. And I set it up the same way. And then I don't have to worry about, oh my God, it's Monday. Oh, it's International Chest Day. Oh, but wait, I haven't done lower body for 3 weeks. You don't have to worry about it. You just rotate, hinging and pulling, pushing and squatting, wash, rinse, and repeat. Which
are all job-related tasks on the fire ground and EMS.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Right. And, you know, and you can, if you are at the busy station and the calls are getting in the way and the lady into the ceiling keeps calling you out between each one, you can do a quick little warm up and then get back into it. You know, it doesn't feel like, oh, you know.
Right. And, you know, would it be great if we could get 3 or 4 strength training sessions a week and a couple of would it be great? Yes. But absent great, this will push the needle, or at least maintain the needle. It's hitting the major body parts.
Absolutely. And so, you know, maintaining the needle, a lot of people think like, okay, well, I can't do that perfect workout, so just screw it. Right. And you have to think about seasons of life. And I can tell you, I'm in one of those, is when you have that fresh baby who's keeping you up all night. And then I don't have the job, but like, then you're going to work and they're keeping you up all night. Like there are seasons of your life where you're going to be busier. So you may have to scale back that programming. The workouts that I did when I was 22 are not the same workouts I'm doing when I'm 32 because of that season change.
Well, and the beautiful thing is if you work really hard building muscle in, you know, you're 22, 32, even 42, when you're 52 or 53, at least you have a base still to work with, and it's more difficult to maintain muscle, but at least you started out with some. Don't be trying to build your muscle at 53. That's just going to be real difficult for you.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's difficult.
Not impossible. And I should back up. I'm going to retract that. It's not easy building muscle at 53, but you should do it anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we've covered all 4 of those major pillars. You know, you're the jack of all trades. The, what is it? What is that knife thing? Jackknife. The one has.
Jack of all trades, master of none?
No, the knife.
Swiss Army knife.
Oh, okay. You know, that mom brain's really just kicking in. Yeah, the Swiss Army knife. So what type of products, services that this Swiss Army knife can do. What can you do for departments? Please help.
Please help. Send help. Okay. So I am really excited to offer a lot of different services to departments, but I think the main one that's just hitting really well for departments right now is my all-day training. So it's a 6-hour training. And speaking of Swiss Army knife, we can kind of figure that out and taper it to what you really feel like is what you want going on at your department. Most departments want to talk about sleep. Most of them want to talk about mobility or ergonomics and things like that. But that's pretty wildly popular, which is a service I love to provide. And then I don't know how many listeners you have that might be practitioners, but also don't tune me out, fire departments, because you sometimes find a person that's a good practitioner that doesn't interface with your department very well. So this actually might be a good thing for them too. But I teach a class basically building your career in fire. So for civilian people who do not have a background in firefighting, I teach them the ins and the outs, the terminology, the how do you find out what you need to find out? How do you work with firefighters? How do you understand the lady in the ceiling? How do you talk so that you don't sound like an idiot? So I'm going to have one of those courses starting in late spring. So I'm really excited about that one too. But also, I would love it if you'd listen to my podcast.
Oh, yes. The Fire Rescue Wellness, in my opinion, is the best podcast for like firefighters, in my opinion. And it's not even because just Annette has a way of asking the right questions that actually freaking matter. And her guests are like great guests. They're not boring. You know, like she really kind of does a great job of doing the so what, the now what, like how do I make this practical for my career, right? And then on a side note, a little testimonial for you. We had Annette so I work full-time for Fairfax County Fire and Rescue, and we recently had a women's health summit, and Annette was one of our killer rock star speakers, and we got phenomenal reviews about how great of a speaker she is, how relatable, you know, and how practical, because people were like, I'm going to work on this sleep stuff tonight. And that was on a Friday night, you know? Ooh. Yeah. So killers,
Megan.
Yes.
That's good. That's good feedback. Also, I'm going to pitch you back, Megan. In May, I'm really excited. I am co-hosting a Women's Tactical Human Performance Summit. I'm so excited.
For the ladies. Yeah.
It's on May 9th, and it's going to be in Oklahoma City. And so I do not believe in, creating false scarcity, but I guarantee you this thing is going to sell out, and it's probably going to sell out soon. Mm-hmm. And so it is only one day. It's $125 to register in beautiful Oklahoma City. Come hang out with me and Megan, Dr. Allison Brager, Dr. Jill Joyce, so many other great guests at that event.
Absolutely. Well, we'll put the link to that event in the show notes. But where can people find you on the socials, on the internet?
Well, listen, Megan's good on all the socials. I am only good on Instagram. So just find me on Instagram at Fire Rescue Wellness.
LinkedIn.
I'm not good at LinkedIn, though.
I feel like you do good on LinkedIn. Okay.
No, I don't do good on LinkedIn. Okay.
Well,
Instagram is my jam. Do not follow me on Facebook. I am terrible on Facebook. Yes. So Fire Rescue Wellness. And then if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to me, info@firerescuewellness.org. Don't do .com, .org.
.org. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think this was a great episode. We covered a lot of topics, and we're going to bring you back for creatine monohydrate. In the meantime, I'm going to put your posts from Instagram about creatine monohydrate. So if people are like, I want to learn more, and you didn't talk about it, and that was lame, we're waiting because there's another study coming out.
Yes. And so the post that Megan's talking about, I was really, really honored to collaborate on a review article on creatine consumption for fire. So Megan, can you put the link to the paper in the show notes?
We'll do the link to the paper for the nerds, and for the not nerds, we'll put the link to the Instagram post that is broken down for the not nerds.
And I'm so happy I live in both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. You're on both sides of the coin. So we had an awesome episode. We will bring you back. Oh, the Dawes Lab. Yeah.
Feral and ungovernable.
Seriously. I'm not surprised.
Don't be surprised.
Yeah,
Nothing should shock you.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, honestly, that's fire in general anyway. So that's appropriate. But thank you so much for joining us. This was the Fueling Fire podcast with Megan Lautz and Annette Zapp. Thank you for joining us and have a healthy shift.
Thanks, Megan.
In the firehouse, every second counts. The best tool for the job, a well-rested firefighter. Dream Seat Firehouse Furniture, built for durability, designed for comfort, because your best tool is your team at their